It's Dave Lawrence here with the star of the show, a real
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
one
The
of the
whole
stars.
band is the star of the show.
No, that's true. I understand. I understand that. It's Dave Lawrence with one of the stars of the show, the namesake of his latest incarnation. A real thrill to welcome to the WZLX airwaves, Phil Lesh.
Thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here on the airwaves.
Thank you so much for taking the time to not only speak with me, but to do this broadcast with us. I know it's the end of your tour. You've just a few more dates to go. New York, right?
That's right. We have, we're here on Wednesday, the 21st, so we have one tonight, and then two more here in Boston, and then 6 in New York, and a benefit at the end of that run.
Now, is it a coincidence that you happen to be ending the tour going through New York, or was that planned in advance of the recent tragedy?
No, I mean, we always like to end in New York because we can stay there for a while and really get something out of being in New York, which is always there's always something.
And energy is always there in New York.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's always some wonderful thing to go and see. And for instance, I'm going to go and see the drawings of Bruegel, the elder, at the Met Museum. He's going to have 60 of his incredible drawings.
So you stack a lot of little journeys on. It's not really just about Phil showing up as a beacon and doing a great benefit. Phil's also going around town and soaking up some culture on his own.
I mean, that's what I live for when I'm in New York City. It's the culture capital.
Tell us about the benefit that you mentioned.
Well, we're doing a benefit on the 3rd, on Monday the 3rd, and it's going to go. It'll go through our foundation, Unbroken Chain, to the New York Relief Fund. To the Twin. It may go to Twin Towers. It may go directly to fire and police. I'm not sure yet, but that's where the funds are going to go. And Bob Weir is going to come out and join us for that.
Right, yeah, Bobby's going to join you. You mentioned the Unbroken Chain Foundation. That's something that really always has drawn me to you and to the Grateful Dead scene is the charitable aspect, the fact that it's a community that gives back to people. What are some of the other things that foundation of yours has been able to accomplish, or some of the other places that you've been able to put your assets behind?
Well, my particular horses that I ride with this foundation are twofold. One is music in schools, and the other one is hepatitis C research, organ transplantation, and that sort of thing. So we in year 2000, we did a big benefit at Henry J. Kaiser in Oakland and raised $250,000 for hepatitis C research. Over the last year or so, we have done we've put a thing together where at some point we invited people to donate, and then we match the funds that they give us to and we give the money to music school districts in the places where we go and play all over the country.
So it has a local sort of impact.
That's right. It goes directly to the local school district, to their music education area.
Have you found that your desire to see music as a charitable or give back situation has increased as you've gotten older? Because you're one of the few people who can really look back and say, I've had a full life in this business, I've gotten a lot out of it, and it's given a lot to me. But you've always given a lot back. So I'm wondering, as you reach this new era of your career, do you find you're giving back more? Do you find that you have more of a mission to reach out and help, or is it still the same strong belief?
Well, it's always been strong, and because for particularly for music in schools, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't been for music in schools, because it was just there, and it just reached out and grabbed me, and I was able to play an instrument at starting to play an instrument at age 8, and I learned how to read and write music, before that. So it's like something that's always been with me, and has always been the foundation for everything I've ever done in music. And I think my desire to give back to that is stronger now than it has been in the past, because all these programs are being cut. Our music in schools and our educational system used to be the finest in the world, the envy of the world, and I don't know what do they deregulate it or something?
Right, when the money gets tight, things like that seem to get cut.
But why is money tight? Why is money tight for education? And it's not tight for other things that seem to be less fundamental.
Sure. No, there seems to be the money's there. It seems to be where the channels
Yeah.
take it.
Whose pocket is it going into?
Right. No, I agree.
Thank you.
What's that mean?
That means I'm going to go on stage in half an hour.
Okay, no problem. Does
Or
that mean
actually,
5 minutes? What do
less
you
than
need me to
half
do
an
with
hour.
him?
Please, just go on.
Oh,
Let's just run down these.
No problem. No problem at all. Something along the same lines. There's half of the Dead to me and the Dead scene that you're so much a part of has been the giving and the generosity and the kindness. The other half is a cultural sort of connection and something that I touched on. We did a broadcast with Bobby Weir just a couple months ago, and he and I, this had happened again after the September 11th thing, he and I spent a great deal of time talking about something that always turned me on so much about the Dead scene, and that was you guys went to Egypt. You broke ground in 1978, and you went and you did several shows. You didn't do one. I mean, you didn't do a tour, but you did, 3 days there. I was wondering, in the last several months, have you revisited in your mind some of the experiences there? Have you felt different about it? Has it come up at all in your mind?
Well, I mean, when you say Egypt, do you mean Egypt as an Arabic nation, or as an Islamic nation, or do you mean Egypt as the home of the antiquities? Or I mean, there's as many Egypts as there are people. I I personally have had in my life contact with an alternative point of view, with let's say the Arabist point of view, since the way we were able to go to Egypt was our way there was paved for us by a gentleman named Joe Malone, who was a scholar and a worker in the area of relations with Arabic countries, and he was as much of an Arabist as anyone that I've met in the United States, and his perspective on the situation in the Middle East and the history of the Middle East was really eye-opening to us, because it sort of gave us a perspective from the Arabs' point of view, rather than the point of view which we usually get here in the United States, which is you could say it's not exactly the Arab point of view. Mm-hmm. And so, since the events of September 11th, I have often thought about how sorely needed some kind of knowledge of their world, of their perspective, of their culture, has been lacking in American in the American mind, in the American psyche, and that's why everybody's saying, why do they hate us? Why do they hate us? Because they don't know that most of these people have no future. They live in poverty. They have no future. They're oppressed by their governments. So, I don't know that the Grateful Dead did any good by going to Egypt and performing. I mean, it was pretty much something that we wanted to do because we wanted to see what it would do to the music. I was just talking to Warren about that tonight, about that event, and about the fact that we went there and we played, and there was a lunar eclipse, which changes things, psychically speaking. I mean, it puts a certain kind of vibe on it, and to be perfectly honest with you, it wasn't one of our successful performances, and yet and yet I was describing to Warren how the Bedouin tribes people from the desert came in on camels. These are the nomads who have no truck with the urban culture like Cairo, Alexandria. They came in and they hung out and they danced. They were dancing out on the sand, and it was at the same time as it wasn't a good performance, it was a beautiful event.
I know you may think that Dead didn't do any.
I've been going all over the map here on this because there's a lot of perspectives to be.
Sure, I think that the Dead did do some good just by it's a cultural awareness thing. It's a bridge of some kind that exists by the fact that you did go there. It becomes part of rock history. It becomes something that people can talk about and you can re-explore. And I think there is some value to that. All these years later, probably even more.
I hope so.
No, I appreciate getting to talk about it with you. I let you go because I know you got to get out there and rock. I'll find.
Man, you mean we don't get to go look down at?
Oh, we can. Okay, yeah, but I don't want to take. How much time do I have with it? Okay.
I don't know how much time.
Yeah, I don't want to beat up on your time.
You gotta come.
Before I get out of your hair and I let you get back on stage, something that I noticed in the last year with this latest Phil and Friends is that you've sort of gelled with a lineup. I think I've even read quotes where you've said things about the lineup that you've got now. When did you first realize these are the guys, and how has that changed the time you spend together in terms of maybe writing things or the growth that would occur?
Well, I knew 30 minutes into the first rehearsal. After we we jammed for X number of minutes, we ended whatever it was we were doing, and looking at each other and saying, "What was that?" Because it was like lighting a fuse.
Chemistry.
Alchemy.
Alchemy.
Alchemy, turning lead into gold. And so the group mind really manifested early on with this lineup, and so I just decided at that point, since it was really difficult and time-consuming to teach every time I wanted to do a tour to teach new musicians them all this material, I decided that since this lineup had the alchemy, I thought I'd keep it.
Were the songwriting skills, what did you think of when you realized that Warren Haynes brings a lot of depth? He brings a whole element. It's not just the almonds thing or the mule, but Warren has this gift, and I just see it again from the outside because I'm not a musician, playing with you guys, but I just see the way Warren sort of can fit into a lot of different places. Has that added an ability for you guys to be very slippery? Because I noticed the set, you guys can go into a lot of places. It's like it's a full show. The dynamics of a Phil show are really there between the two sets. And I'm wondering if Haynes in particular, if there's been something, and also I want to know about writing. If you and Haynes, like, what have you done? If there's a chance, have you looked at him and gone, I want to sit down with Warren. Maybe I want to shed with Warren.
Oh yeah, I mean all of that is true. I mean, everybody brings to the table a certain piece of the picture. So that or the puzzle, if you want to put it that way, and when you plug them all in together, then you have the whole thing. And so it's not that anyone, because each one of these guys had played with me in other contexts, in other
Sure.
lineups, and it's just this particular combination.
Now, when this combination does something like work, I hear you're doing some new Hunter material.
Yeah.
There's some new stuff. Have you been working with any of those songs prior to this lineup, or is that something that's just
No,
sort of developed?
all of that started coming out of this lineup.
Tell me about the new Hunter stuff.
Well, I just wanted to write. I wanted to write for this band. I just started writing stuff, and Hunter was kind of semi-retired. I was working on this one thing one day last spring, and I changed the groove on it, and it sat right up and said to me, "I am a Robert Hunter song." I am a Robert Hunter song. So I called Bob. I said, "Bob, I know you're retired, but listen, man, I got this song. This music is saying to me, I am a Robert Hunter song. So I want to come over and play it for you at least." "Sure, man, come on over." And the result was, he ended up writing lyrics to 3 songs, not just one.
Oh wow!
And we've done a fourth that we did together in August and September, and there's one that I took out of the book that I just actually set the lyrics that were in the book. So I mean, I'm kind of on a roll, and I've also written 3 songs, one from '93, but 2 others just in the last year though that I wrote the lyrics for myself. So I'm kind of on a roll that way, and I'm working on a song cycle that Hunter's writing the lyrics for, 7 songs, going to be based on the journey of the soul through the planetary spheres after death.
And this is a brand new thing, a separate thing that you're working on with
Totally
Hunter.
separate. Yeah.
And how much of the music of that is done?
I've got pieces of all 7, and he took that.
I started to hear about this summer. Is this the thing with
the planets?
Right. And the times of year though, or seasons in there too?
No, well, I mean, there's all kinds of levels that you can. I mean, the number 7 is mystically significant in many ways. Suffice it to say that I don't really want to say too much about it, because a lot of these structures and these journeys are going to be embedded in it,
right?
So they won't be on the surface. You know what I mean? So anyway, I mean,
I know it'll be a journey on many levels, but I do remember hearing about that last summer at the Tweeter. There was discussion when you did the summertime thing with Bobby on the bill.
Yes, that's right. And each at that time we did 7 shows. Each one of the shows had a piece of this suite, kind of performed in it, and we just spread it over the course of the tour. So
that's something we may see as a full release.
Yeah, that's going to be a set-length song cycle.
And the other new tunes with Hunter.
We do them all the time.
But in terms of a Phil and Friends release where they come out.
Yeah, we're talking about doing that now pretty soon in the first part of the year.
All right, you're mulling it over.
Yeah.
All right. Phil Lesh, legend, getting to talk with me. Yeah, I know you can shrug it off, but for those of us who camped and vented in the parking lot, who were living in the late '80s, you know, and trading and the whole bartering system, the sense of community, you're a legend for that, dude, and we appreciate it.
What's a legend, man? That's the community is the legend.
And you guys let the community have them. As I told Bobby that summer at that Tweeter Center show that we were just talking about, sometimes you guys don't get enough credit for the fact that there was hundreds of thousands of dollars in commerce going on outside of these shows every night. The band just let it happen because they let these communities exist, and you should be commended for it and know that it didn't go unnoticed. And there are guys like me who carry around our memories of like times at RFK, summer of '89, some of those moments when the touring scene was really heavy. I will never forget that stuff. So you did kick it back, and it's great to be able to recognize it, and you should be recognized for it, Phil.
Well, you know, it's amazing what you can do if you don't give a shit who gets the credit. So, you know, to me, all the credit for everything that's happened with the Grateful Dead, it really resides with the community, because the community really is the music. I mean, the community feeds us, and we just open it up. We just open up the pipeline, and out it comes. The circuit is closed, and bam, there we are.
You're a solid brother. I appreciate you taking the time here on ZLX with me.
Nice talking to you, Dave.
Phil Lesh here, 100.7 WZLX, Boston's classic rock. You're the king. Do you do IDs? You don't do IDs.
Sure,
you will do them? They're on page 2. I do appreciate it, man.
Hi, this is Phil Lesh from the Grateful. Is it right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hi, this is Phil Lesh from the Grateful Dead, and now Phil Lesh and Friends. And I can assure you, help is on the way, with Dave Lawrence steering the ship on 100.7 WZLX, Boston's classic rock. Hey, this is Phil Lesh from Grateful Dead, and now Phil and Friends, and you're listening to 100.7 WZLX, Boston's classic rock. Whoa, this is Phil Lesh from the Grateful Dead, and now Phil and Friends, and help is on the way. 10 in a row is coming up here on ZLX.